Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining me, for the likes, the shares, the follows. Everything that you do is greatly appreciated, and I am extremely grateful. And today I wanted to touch base in this channel, which is called Heal and Create Your Reality, right? It's a great title for such times as now, right? And so I wanted to touch base on frequency and vibration, and how the powers at work that are able to maneuver and manipulate our free will can only access us if we're vibrating at its frequency, and that would be at a low vibration. And so I wanted to introduce something that I haven't really touched based on, so that we could get a better understanding and a better picture of what it is that I'm referring to when I'm speaking about frequency and vibration. So when I speak of a low frequency, I'm referring to when we're operating through our sexual desires, not having a moral compass, with regret, shame, remorse, really just being condemned and chained by our past, or even our present, and being in a cage that we're not seeing, the cage that we're in. And so that's another topic that I wanted to speak on, the cage that is not seen, right? And how we can free ourselves from that cage, which would be the programming in reality. So the systems at work that are put in place to basically keep us divided and stuck, and that we have been programmed to believe that they're there in place for us, for our betterment, for our good, but in reality is to keep us docile, to keep us just following whatever it is, the script that they want us to follow, right? But that's not what I wanted to touch base on right now. I'll come back later and speak on that one, on the cage that's not seen, right? Which is basically inside our minds, right? And there are programs in place to keep us there, but let's go back to the frequency and vibration, and the lower vibrations, the lower frequency, right? And for that, there's inside of us, we have chakras, right? And our lower chakras, our root chakra, our sacral chakra, our solar plexus, they are the lower realms per se. And when we're operating from any of these three chakras, that's how spiritual warfare can attach itself to us, and how we can vibrate and will vibrate at the frequency of the enemy, which is in seeking worldly possessions, right? And that's not to say that we don't need material things. We do need material things, and money is not the root of all evil. Evil people are the root of all evil. If we have money, when we have money, if put in good hands, we will be able to do great things with the money. Now, when it's placed in hands of greedy people, and people who are just out here killing, stealing, and destroying, then that's when money becomes a problem. And that's how also we're going to touch base in the false belief systems, and the belief systems that we have in place that keep us in a state of lack. Because also when we're operating from a space of lack, from a place of lack, we're also welcoming the enemy into our energy, and we're also vibrating at its frequency, because it's all energy. We're all energy, and the frequency that we vibrate in determines the type of reality that we have, right? And what affects our energy and our frequency is our shadow, our subconscious, what we choose to not heal, what we choose to not address. That's what affects our vibration, what we indulge in, the food that we consume, right? There's a reason why there's so many McDonald's, so many fast food places all over everywhere, so that it's just so accessible to us. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why there's so many liquor stores. There's a reason why there's so many vape stores. There's a reason why there's so many bars, nightclubs. There's a reason for that, because the point is to keep us distracted, to keep us asleep, to keep us from not going within and seeking our higher self, which is ultimately God, who resides inside of us, right? And so we can't have the one without the others, especially not with me. I do both. I do God and raising my vibration. I do God and healing. It just coincides because the way that I found God was by healing, was by choosing myself, was by raising my vibration, was by raising my frequency, was by changing the way I ate, was by not indulging in certain things that would bring down my vibration. And by doing so, I was able to awaken God and awaken my spiritual gifts through a process. And everybody is able to do this, but it takes work, it takes dedication, it takes commitment to oneself to be able to do these things. And that's why we have so many distractions in place to keep us from actually doing the work and looking at ourselves and healing, because what will come out of that would be something that they won't be able to control, right? Because we'll put the glasses on. When we put those spiritual glasses on, there's no going back to sleep. You could try, but ain't nobody going back to sleep after that. You wouldn't be able to take it. So now I wanted to go back to the topic of the vibration, the frequency, and how only when operating at these frequencies can the enemy have access to us. So I'm going to explain it to you in the way that I learned it. Think about it this way. So your lower chakras would represent, per se, let's say, what you're consuming, like any addictions that you may have, like sex, food, lust, greed, any of those sorts, right? The need for power, money, position, status, the need for control, basically your ego just controlling the living out of you, like the life out of you. Yeah, like that, right? And then all of the wounds that you may have are all when you're operating from your wounds and you have not really looked at yourself. These are what makes up your lower chakras, which would make your lower self, right? And when you're operating from these, right, you're consuming all types of foods, you're consuming all types of drugs, you're consuming all types of things through your eyes, your ears, you're lustful, you have immorality, things like that, right? And so when you operate at this level, you could say that this is like a devilish frequency, like let's say a bad boy, bad girl frequency, where you're doing just all types of weird things that you wouldn't do if you were operating at your higher self, right? And so when I speak about the lower self and the higher self, I do not affiliate this with religion. I affiliate this with operating with a moral compass. The reason being that we all know right from wrong. Right now, do we choose to neglect that at certain points in our stages, or do we, because of our wounds, decide to go on a different path and say things like, well, we only live once, right? And it's true, we only live once, but with your free will, how are you choosing to live, right? And with your free will, that's another thing, right? I've known people who participate in diabolical stuff and they're like, well, it's my free will. I get to choose it how I want to choose it. And, you're right about that. But what is it going to cost you, right? What is that going to cost you? Because your moral compass comes with your connection to God. That's the key here. We do have free will, but your moral compass, keeping that, comes with your connection to source directly, which resides inside of you. And so when we're vibrating at these frequencies, because we are, the point of us being here in this vessel, we're spiritual beings having an earthly experience, is to ascend towards your higher self, right? So everybody starts at the lower self, but we all are to master our energy and our wounds and our desires and ascend to our higher self. And so I'm going to come back with more regarding that. I'll be back later.